Well, good afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are calling in from today. We are going to just give it another few minutes for people to get logged in. Frequently, I notice with Zoom, there's always at least a new update or something to go ahead and do before you join. So we'll give people another few seconds. If you don't mind, at the bottom of the screen is a Q&A box. Go ahead and find that. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to put your questions in there. We'll save some time at the end and go ahead and get those answered. But you can also, if you want, you can put down where you're listening in from or calling in from today. We always like to see where people are listening to our presentations from. But we'll give people another few seconds and then we'll continue.
Where are people calling in from, Joe?
All right, we have one from Norman, Oklahoma, Fallbrook, California. I see we have one from Belize. Hello. I was just there and it's quite sunny. James, welcome, welcome. Wow, Sweden, you are quite bold being on at this hour. It's got to be what, middle of the night, your time? Colombia, Las Vegas, South Carolina, Florida. We got quite a representation. So looks like we have a good number of people on. So why don't we go ahead and get started? But hi, everyone. I'm Joe Nagel. I'm a property consultant with ECI Development. And today I'm here to welcome our host, Michael Cobb. He is our CEO and founder of ECI Development, and he will be giving a wonderful presentation on Nicaragua and all things about the country. So, Mike, without further ado, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then feel free to share your screen.
Absolutely, doing it right now. So good to be with everybody. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about, Nicaragua. As you'll see later in the presentation, I ended up moving there with my wife and 2-year-old daughter back in 2002. And we thought we would live there for, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years to get our project there started, the Grand Pacifica community. And about 3 years into it, we'd hired, accountants and architects and engineers, operational people, marketing people. And my wife and I went out to dinner one night and we said, well, do we stay here in Nicaragua? Or do we go back to our home in the US? And we decided to stay a little while longer. And a little while longer ended up being a total of 14 years, and had another little daughter that came along, and we raised a family there. And I really do consider Nicaragua a second home. Whenever I travel there, I was just there a few weeks ago. I really feel at home when I arrive, and it's a nice feeling. And in fact, I had a call earlier today, and we were kind of talking about some of the challenges that our property consultants like Joe and some other folks are having when they talk about Nicaragua. And I say this, I ask them to say this, I say this frequently, Nicaragua is its best salesperson. The best investment you can really make is to buy a ticket, buy a couple nights hotel room, fly down to Nicaragua and see it with your own eyes. We're going to go through our presentation today. We're going to talk about lots of things. We're going to cover statistics and pictures and talk about this stuff. But at the end of the day, you are your own best judge of what's right for you. And I really encourage you, if at the end of this you think to yourself, well, that's not really what I thought it was. It actually looks a lot nicer than I thought, or what I've heard, right? The news media has just painted Nicaragua as this horrible, dangerous place for many years. And the truth is just so far from that. And when we cover that, we talk about safety, we talk about other things like that. But at the end of the day, if you look at this webinar and you think to yourself, all right, that's not what I thought it was, or whatever the comment may be, book a ticket, come down. We've got a couple planned trips, which are always a lot of fun. And I think the dates are March 17 to 20 and then 21 to 23, something like 2 different little quickie trips. You're obviously welcome to come down anytime you would like. But, if you come down with a group of folks, we do make it fun. We have, little events and outings and barbecues on the beach and stuff like that, which are tremendous. But come see it for yourself. That would be my absolute encouragement. If this presentation tickles your imagination and you say, all right, yeah, I think this makes sense, let me go see it. Please do come down and see Nicaragua with your own eyes, because Nicaragua truly is its best salesperson. So here we go. We're going to talk about lifestyle affordability. I call it the Nicaragua 101. Joe mentioned that I've been around for a long time, and I've been around a long time, but the company's been around a long time too. We started our company in 1996, and really what we do is deliver inspired residences for adventurous souls. That's really the hallmark of what we do. And it's really the thread that runs through so many of our property owners. In fact, I would almost say all of our property owners and neighbors and investors, a real spirit of adventure. And that's a pretty neat, a thread, or a pretty neat commonality that we have as a group of people. And what we find is when people come on a trip, like we just talked about, say in March, or you decide you want to own a home and become a neighbor in this community, one of the really cool things is you're going to be around other people who share this spirit of adventure, and it's refreshing. I don't know about you, but I don't find a lot of it here in my hometown in the United States very often. And when I do, I'm always like really super pleasantly surprised. But when I go to Nicaragua, when I go to Belize, when I go to some of the other places that we work and have communities, I'm almost always it's just sort of, I hate to call it run of the mill, but it's just expected. Like, yeah, there's a sense of adventure, and it's wonderful and it's refreshing that you can really let your hair down and be yourself in these environments. Company has been around again for almost 30 years now, 28 years. We've got a lot of hard assets. We've got a great balance sheet. And we also, most importantly, have a top-notch team. And I think that longevity in the business is important. A lot of developers come and go. They're here and they're gone. What kind of assets do they have? But far more important, what kind of team do they have? Do they have the kind of people who back up what is said is going to be done? And we have a great leadership team, and then we have about 150 folks who get the job done day in and day out. And that's really, really important. And we're so proud of our team. They do a great job, and they deliver on what we absolutely must deliver on, which are the results. So here are the things we're going to talk about today. Why Nicaragua, living and investing, and some of those considerations and factors. We're going to talk about Grand Pacifica. We're going to talk about community, and you heard me just talk about community, didn't you? This idea of being able to be around people, be in a neighborhood, being able to let our hair down and be who we actually are. And that spirit of adventure is a foundational element of the community. And then how can we enjoy the affordability as well? And I know that many of you listening tonight are folks that have come through a very special community that we are building, which is the ISLA, the low EMF community. And we're going to touch on that at the very end and spend a few minutes on it. And then obviously, if you have questions, we can drill down deeper in the Q&A session, or you can get someone like Joe on the phone. He's happy to pick up the phone, give you a call sometime, and talk about your specific questions or your desires to make the move. So Nicaragua is the largest country in Central America. The little inset map down there on the left kind of shows it's in relation to the United States, Cuba, South America. It's a very large country. Our Grand Pacifica community is just southwest of the capital city of Managua. It kind of sounds silly to many people to say, it's paved road the whole way. But it is. It's paved road from the airport all the way to the beach, which is not commonplace in Nicaragua and actually many parts of the developing world, including places like Costa Rica, where you still have a lot of dirt roads. So paved road, very, very important. We talk about this development curve. You'll see the country of Nicaragua down on the development curve. I like to call it the popularity curve. The popularity curve is probably a far more accurate way to describe how the countries or regions of a country have been placed on this chart. If you just say to yourself, where would a couple from Des Moines, Iowa, let's say a couple from Des Moines, Iowa gets married on Saturday, where are they going on their honeymoon Sunday or Monday, right? There are lots of them going up there on the top right. Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Costa Rica, very, very popular. There are not very many of them going to El Salvador, Honduras, or Nicaragua. Not as popular, right? So these things have impact on cash flow, price appreciation, but this is important for us to understand. Nicaragua is a lot like, say Mexico 25 or 30 years ago. It's a lot like Costa Rica 10 or 15 years ago. And so it's almost like a time machine, right? If you like what, Cancun, Mexico is today, great, go get it. But if you say to yourself, gosh, I wish I would have bought something in Cancun 25 years ago or 30 years ago, right? Well, you kind of can. And that's buying something in Nicaragua, owning something in Nicaragua today. Why Nicaragua? We've got 5 reasons here. We're going to actually hit each of these, so I'm not going to spend time on that slide. So the safest country in Central America. And you'd go, yeah, sure, Cobb, whatever. Don't confuse me with the facts. Nicaragua, year after year after year, ranks as one of the safest countries in the region. Check this out. This was 2020. It's the last data I could pull. But you've got El Salvador and Honduras on the left side. You got Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua across the middle. Very, very safe. And then I throw in a couple US cities just for comparison purposes, right? Nicaragua, far safer than Cleveland and St. Louis. No offense to the folks who live there, but here's the reality. There are lots of people who live in Cleveland who are very safe, and there are lots of people who live in St. Louis who are very safe. The reason is they, that they understand that crime is very local, and crime is also behavior. If you're out trolling around a neighborhood at 4 a.m. looking for drugs, you know what? You might be putting yourself in danger, right? The likelihood of crime goes up. If you're home in bed at 10 o'clock, yeah, sure, lightning can strike, but it doesn't happen very often. And the numbers really, really prove that out. But a country like Nicaragua, very, very safe. Not what we would think, though, is it? Right? And we have some other statistics for some other countries. Nicaragua at 7.9. You can see some of the other numbers on here. Costa Rica at 11. So again, very, very safe country according to the numbers. But actually, I think safety is more visual or more visceral when we put ourselves into it. This is my wife, Carol, my little daughter, Amanda, when we moved to Nicaragua in 2002. And, I traveled 2 to 3 weeks a month, and I would leave my little ones there. Another little one, Emily, came along. My parents came to visit. The girls did all kinds of stuff. They watched football games. We ate chicken wings. They were in Girl Scouts. They danced. But I left them there by themselves to go swim at the beach, by themselves, camp at the beach by themselves. And they did for 14 years because Nicaragua is really a safe country. And had it not been, be rest assured, we wouldn't probably have moved there in the first place. We wouldn't have stayed any longer than the absolute time it took to get our project started. And I sure as heck wouldn't have been leaving every couple of weeks and leaving them there to drive around in our little Honda CRV. Go off and find a butterfly farm at the end of a muddy dirt road out in the jungle, getting stuck in the mud, having to knock on somebody's door to have a team of oxen pull you out, or getting a flat tire on the side of the road and somebody pulling over to help change it, right? Nicaragua is truly what we remember the best parts of maybe the United States or Canada or other places many, many years ago. It's a conservative culture. It's a warm culture. The people are wonderful. And our experience over 14 years absolutely proved that out. And I always like to say it's mostly safe. We talk about behaviors. This is called volcano boarding. There's a cinder cone volcano. It's the youngest volcano in the Americas. And every now and then it coughs a little bit and throws out some cinders. And people take these little toboggans up and you slide down it. Well, the day I was there, the week I was there, the speed record was 88 kilometers. They have a guy at the bottom with a radar gun. And I tried to break the speed record. However, I didn't. But I had a good time. I think I clocked in at about 68 kilometers, which is pretty fast when you're sitting on the ground. But this goes to the point of behavior, right? I mean, you're as safe as you want to be. And if you like to have a little adventure, Nicaragua is a great place to have fun adventure. Why Nicaragua? Affordable real estate. A condo, very similar. We try to do comp sets. Our comp set condo in California, $947,000, call it, close to $1 million. The same thing in Nicaragua, under 200,000. I mean, it's a $500,000 differential. And sometimes we look at things as saving money, like, oh, wow, I can save $800,000, right? And you can, if you look at it that way. But actually, if you go back to that slide with the path of progress, as Nicaragua becomes more and more popular, the value of those properties continues to go up. So instead of saving $800,000, the other way to look at it is, as Nicaragua grows in popularity, I'm going to make some percentage of that 800 as the prices go up. So that's one way to look at it. I mean, these are oceanfront homes on the Pacific Ocean, under $500,000. Homes 100, 150, 200 yards from the beach, beautiful swimming beach. The one you just saw my wife and children playing at, under $200,000. These happen to be solar off-grid homes that are there. So very, very affordable real estate. But, buying the real estate, owning it is one thing. Continuing to use it and enjoy it is another. So what is that cost of living? You know, when we lived there, we spent about a third of what we would spend in the US for a comparable quality of life. And I say comparable because, you know, things that, you know, school and gas and food and electric and all those things, right? But here's the really interesting thing, that we actually had a higher quality of life and we paid about a third of what it cost us to live in the US. And here's why. Well, let's get there. I think we got it. Here's one reason, right? You know, we ate organic fruits and vegetables, meats, cheeses, fish every day without question, because we shopped at the local market. We picked up our fish. I have a picture coming up later. We picked up our fish at a marketplace right where the fish are coming right out of the ocean. And so, you know, if you go down to Whole Paycheck, I call it Whole Paycheck, Whole Foods, right? And you want to buy a grocery sack of fruits, vegetables, you're walking out of there easy over $100, right? And we had a bag of organic fruits and vegetables. Sometimes we would have meats put in, cheeses, other things, eggs put in. It was delivered to our house every Tuesday. The fruits and vegetable piece were $8. Then you added in the other stuff, but it was just silly inexpensive, but it was organic. Talk about a higher quality of life, what we're putting in our bodies, right? The other thing I would say before we get into this is, you know, we also had a maid. And a maid is, you know, under $200 a month. And we had a handyman, part-time handyman we shared with a couple neighbors. And really, for $250 a month, we had no chores. None. Zero. We didn't clean. We didn't do laundry. We didn't do dishes. I mean, you know, we did our own cooking, but you know, we'd rinse the dishes and put them in the sink, right? We had no chores for $250 a month. And what that translates into is unbelievable quality of life. Every night we'd say, what do you want to do? You want to go jump on the trampoline? You want to go out and do some slacklining? You want to play a game? You want to read books? Right? On the weekends, oh, what do you want to do? Let's go find that butterfly farm or that cool waterfall out there, right? Or let's go to the beach and watch the baby turtles hatch and do whatever, right? I mean, so we had incredible amounts of quality time, and it cost us $250 a month. These are the kinds of things that are just hard for us as North Americans to really understand, how we can have this higher quality of life and have it cost so much less, a third of our cost of living in the United States with these enhancements. You know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I would suggest, you know, go poke around on the internet and see the really cool things in Nicaragua. Everything from beaches, of course, right? But volcanoes, canyons, you know, the truth is that people are looking. The secret really is getting out, and Nicaragua's climbing this popularity curve. This is Granada, a 500-year-old colonial city. What a gem. I mean, this place is spectacular. About an hour and 45 minutes from Grand Pacifica. People go there for the day sometimes. They'll go for a weekend, spend a night. It's right on Lake Nicaragua. It is just absolutely spectacular. Other cities, Leon, almost 500 years old. Messiah, ancient city. The Corn Islands off the Caribbean coast. We have a great place there that we love. And then the fishing village of San Juan del Sur. The activities, there's the volcano boarding, very, very close, about 2 hours from Grand Pacifica. Again, an ancient cathedral, surfing, crater lakes, volcanoes, hiking in the jungle. Nicaragua's just full of these incredibly wonderful activities, and then powerful, powerful heritage and cultural events as well. This is a volcano that you can actually see the lava at the bottom. I don't know how many of you have ever seen lava before. I hadn't, and it is just so cool to stand there and look down and see bubbling lava. Anyway, so now we'll move into some of the, I call them nuts and bolts, like the nuts and bolts here. Investing in Nicaragua, what's it really look like? The first bullet point here is absolutely the most important. No restrictions on foreign ownership. No restrictions on foreign ownership. The second bullet point is pretty good too. Equal treatment for foreign and domestic investors. So they treat you as a foreigner the same way they treat a Nicaraguan. So there are no restrictions and you're treated the same constitutionally. This is huge because other countries, Mexico, Honduras, Argentina, these countries actually treat foreigners and domestics very differently. And so how you own property, or if you can own property, become factors. Nicaragua, you are treated equally, no restrictions. Property tax rate, very, very low. And the other thing that's important is to understand that you actually get title to the property. Now, it's called escritura publica, public title because it's Spanish and it's civil law, but it's public title. It's a registered deed. You get physical title to your property, which again is something unique and wonderful about the country of Nicaragua, that it's true in other countries too, but in many countries of the region, you cannot get title. You can lease the land, but you can't own the land. In Nicaragua, you own the land. You have public title, escritura publica. They have residency programs. By the way, Joe introduced himself as a property consultant. Joe and our team of folks are also residency consultants. So if you're wanting to own a property here in Nicaragua, for example, you can come in as a pensionado or retiree if you're 45 or older. I don't know why they picked 45 for retirement, but that's a win, right? And then you just have to show that you make $600 a month somehow, some way. And a Social Security statement does that, or pensions, or a stock portfolio, anything to show that. So very, very easily achievable to get the retiree visa. They also have an investor visa, a $30,000 investment. Gets you a 5-year residency, which you can renew. It also allows you to run your own business, which is important. If you're thinking that you want to be active when you're there, this is probably the way to go. So those are some neat options for you. And then Grand Pacifica. Grand Pacifica is the project that we started back in 2000. We bought this giant piece of property, 2,500 acres, 3.5 miles of beach. It's about a mile deep and 3.5 miles long. And I have to admit, at the beginning, we really didn't understand what we were getting into until somebody one day it was a chairman of our board at one time. He tapped on the table and he said, "Hey, boys, understand, you're building a city." And like, it really changed how we thought about things. And maybe city's too big, but 3.5 miles by 1 mile, that's certainly a town, right? And it really started to change how we thought about Grand Pacifica. And so it's a town, it's a small town. And inside that town, we have neighborhoods, and they're very different neighborhoods that can deliver different lifestyle experiences to different types of folks. And so we'll look at that in a second. And that's the neighborhoods for everyone. The climate, by the way, is Southern California, with one big difference. The ocean is 80 degrees. You can go swimming in the ocean. You saw pictures of my kids and my wife and kids swimming in the ocean. You can go swimming, you can go surfing, and you stay warm because the water is so warm. This is our master plan, different neighborhoods. We're not going to drill into this very much. If you're interested in anything specific, please get back with us, get back with Joe. He'll dig in and find out which neighborhood is right for you. Again, different neighborhoods have different feels, different types of architecture, different types of community. And so this is really important, that by building a small town with different neighborhoods, we can really customize what we do for the various folks that want it. And reality matters, right? I mean, a lot of people talk about what they're gonna do. Well, we talked about what we were gonna do, 25 years ago, and we have done it. And you can come and enjoy it right now, today. This is our San Diego Viejo. There's a 9-hole golf course in place. We have a new neighborhood kind of up towards the top, top right there under the word neighborhood. I think we have a picture coming back from the other way in a moment. We have homes, condos, restaurants. I mean, this is all there. We have people living on site. This is really a community now. And this is our San Diego Viejo, more traditional Nicaraguan colonial homes, single family homes on nice sized lots. And then we have this neighborhood kind of looking back the other direction, which is 80 new homes, the off-grid, off the ocean, the hybrid homes right on the ocean. These are under construction. The first 40 or so, maybe 45 have been delivered. The next 40 or whatever's left on that number will be delivered over the next several months. And many of these homes are owner occupied. So there really is a community building right now here in this neighborhood as well. Some folks taking ownership of their home, very, very exciting. Some folks celebrating Christmas with us in their brand new tiny home. People are coming down to fish, surf, horseback riding, whether it's through the trails in the jungle or horseback riding on the beach, which I understand is not something that people get to do in the US and Canada very much anymore because of regulations. On-site spa, lots of fun things to do. If you don't know how to surf, we have a beautiful, easy break where you can actually learn to surf. And I just read a woman in her 80s learned to surf, which not at Grand Pacifica, but still a very cool thing. Even at age 80, she learned how to surf. There it is, horseback riding on the beach. Just so spectacular. We have a golf course, we have clubhouse, tennis courts, soccer. We have a Frisbee golf course. We've got some other amenities coming in soon. We've got event and function space, lots of weddings happening out at Grand Pacifica now. A wonderful fine restaurant called Sea Salt, a place to get pizza, dogs, and burgers at the clubhouse, with other food and beverage to come shortly. Earlier, I mentioned getting our fish right out of the ocean. Here they are coming up the beach. You just walk in, you look at the fish you want, and you say, I want that one. And the restaurant, by the way, buys from the same place. They get their fruits and vegetables and create incredibly healthy organic meals. But if you're cooking at home, you can go do the exact same thing. This is our mango orchard at Grand Pacifica. We planted several hundred mango trees. Owners have full access. Go pick the mangoes, pick them green. Green mangoes with chili, with hot sauce is fantastic, or salt. You let them get ripe, and mangoes are just spectacular. We have other fruits, many other kinds of fruit trees that we planted. Here are some bananas, plantains going in one of the neighborhoods to create this agricultural element, to create sustainability. We do beach cleanups. We have a local Rotary Club. We have sustainable gardens. We have about 1.5 acres of land that we've plowed, and we have a couple residents now actually doing their own gardening in this common area for all residents. We bring in medical missions, dental missions. If that's your thing and you have experience, dig in, help out. They're always looking for help. And then we have our environmental programs like our sea turtle recovery, where we've literally saved thousands and thousands of turtles from poaching and being consumed. Baby turtles, the eggs actually are consumed. And what's really fun, and we did this so many times, 3-4 times a year, every year, that we were living there for 16 years, like we would go out and help release the baby turtles. It's just this very, very cool, wonderful, fun thing. And it's making a difference. And then on property, we've got cattle, we have bees. We have a bee program producing our own honey. And then we have 2 separate farmers markets, one on Thursday, one on Saturday. 2 different vendors come in and you can go there and pick up whatever produce you need. They also bring in meats. If you order ahead of time, they'll bring in whatever cut of meat you want, whether it's beef, chicken, or pork. Eggs, of course, available, cheeses as well. So again, making it very, very easy to live there and live well there as well. So Grand Pacifica, drill down into some of the real estate options. We have many different home designs based on the neighborhoods themselves. These are some home designs that work in our Mila, which is our we used to call it Casita Village, and our San Diego Viejo, more traditional Spanish colonial homes, single family homes. Here are some actual homes that are in there that at one point or another were up for sale or resale. But basically you can see the kinds of prices, under 200,000 for the smaller homes, 300,000 to 400,000 for the larger homes, making this again a very, very affordable property when you're just a few hundred yards from the ocean. Oceanfront homes from 450, 475, and then the off ocean but very, very close to the ocean homes starting under 200,000 at $179,000. So these are the different neighborhoods, different kinds of stylings. And then we have the Isla community. And I want to thank Karen Rich for bringing this to our attention. I don't know if Karen's on here tonight. If she is, maybe Joe, you could tap her and bring her in as a co-host, because I think maybe we'd want to introduce her here at the end. And maybe if there's some questions that she could answer, we'll ask her to help us answer those. Karen heard about us about 1.5 years ago, I guess. And Karen was really looking for a place that was low EMF. And one of the reasons that she found us, and one of the reasons that there was a really good fit, was because back in 2004, Grand Pacifica decided we were going to put fiber optic to the home, fiber to the home. And we were the first fiber to the home community in Central America. And this was big news. We got lots of press. Now there's obviously a lot more, but back at the time, Pacific Broadband was the company, huge press. And because we put in fiber, we actually have the ability to deliver data, telephone, all of the elements of telecommunications and TV via fiber. And that lets us have or build a very low EMF neighborhood. This is important. Many folks are being sickened by the EMF, the 5G. I think a lot of people have heard about 5G and sort of the reaction to that. And that's certainly the big talking point these days. But the challenge and the problem has been going on much longer with other frequencies as well. And Karen found us. She said, "Hey, do you think you could take a look for a place on Grand Pacifica that we could do something like this?" And so we searched around and we found a place that we thought would be pretty good. It's a little bit of a bowl, a little bit of a, an area that's got some hill around it. And we happen to have a teak forest on one side. And yes, we do have a cell tower on property. Be very clear about that. We do have a cell tower on property. It's on the other side of the teak forest. It's about, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile away. And the Isla community is down in a little bit of a bowl with the teak forest between us and the cell tower. This is the location of Isla. You've seen the Ava community and the beachfront homes. You're about 600 yards from the water. And we hired a woman, a building biologist, to come down. We'd run around, a couple that live on property, Grant and Sasha, ran around with one of their meters to test, how much signal was there, how much, actual radiation was there. And it was very, very low, and almost too low to believe. And so we said, all right, well, that's great. And we had a couple of people say, Karen and some others, so, well, you need to hire a building biologist. You got to hire somebody who's a professional in this industry to come down with professional equipment and take measurements, third-party independent. This is Kathy in both pictures. Yep, Kathy in both pictures, out with her meters taking. And if you look at these numbers, and I'm not smart enough to understand what they really mean, except that on her meter, if it was green and green was 10 or below, it was good. We were pulling 1 to 4. Are these microwatts? I think. I don't know what the symbol is. Anyway, very, very low in the green zone, under 10. This is Isla. And this was really important. In fact, we will be posting her formal report tomorrow or the next day on our Isla landing page, on our website. We just got it today. We're reviewing it, get it formatted, and it'll go up maybe even tomorrow. I don't know, but soon. So Joe will let you know if you want to see her report. It's 18 pages. It's great. I mean, it just talks about, how and where she measured and what those results were. So anyway, great stuff. Grant is our architect. He has designed 4 home models, technically 5. We have another one that we're not really going to talk about tonight, but 4 wonderful, beautiful home models that will be highly EMF resistant. The fact of being able to mitigate that EMF through the architecture itself, through the design, and through the materials. That's how you really take what's already very, very low and make it even lower. And the community itself, we have home sites starting at $69,000, but the community itself will have architectural covenants and restrictions that require the EMF protections on all homes that are built. We have packages. You just saw 4 of them there that you could say, I want that house on this lot. Great, we can do that for you. Those homes will absolutely meet the architectural engineering covenants and restrictions for EMF mitigation. But the community itself, in the common areas, on the street, in the parks, at the pool, in the palapa, those types of things, there will be rules and regulations in this community. No cell phone use, right? There will be no Wi-Fi throughout. Right? If you want to wire the inside of your house, and as long as it doesn't emit outside your house, no problem. But inside your home, is yours. Outside your home, you will be abiding by covenants and restrictions that give this the safety and preserves that safety long into the future for the folks that own here. We have tiny home packages that start at $182,000. You saw the other homes at $179,000. These are EMF mitigated, slightly different design, slightly different construction standards, a few $1,000s more. And this is what you can have, a beautiful, beautiful home that's designed. And then 1 bedroom, 1 bath, nice larger home starting at $272,000. By the way, financing is available. We'll talk about that in a minute. 2 bedroom, 2 bath, $372,000, and also food forest, continuing on the tradition of food and agro sustainability. Yes, we're planting all over the property, but actually one of the parks inside Isla will have a food forest done by Jim Gale and his group out of Florida. And then people want their own food forest on their own properties. Great, they'll be available to do that. So creating that food sustainability piece is critically important to the community. A rendering of what it may look like when it's finished out. But the idea of community, the idea of people hanging out, being together, enjoying the company of one another. We do take crypto. We've taken crypto for a long time. In fact, I would say we were the first developer in Central America to take crypto, and we're probably still one of the very few that do. If you have crypto and you want to use it to make your down payment, you want to use it for the entire ownership amount, that's fine. You can do that. We do, under very strict conditions, allow self-directed IRAs to own properties. The one condition, and it's a hard condition, is that it must be for investment. There is an investment proposition here. Many folks who want to live in an EMF low area cannot afford the entry price of ownership of a home, but they can afford to rent long term. They need it. They want it. They're sickened. They're desperately in search of a place to call home that gives them the health that they want. And they're not finding it in the US, certainly. And so there is an investment opportunity for folks to own a home and rent it to people who want to rent because they either don't want to buy or they cannot afford to buy. So that's where a self-directed IRA comes in. It must be an investment property. And then on financing, very, very important. Yeah, I mean, obviously the bigger the down payment you make, the better, the less you're borrowing, right? But we can actually help you finance up to 80% of your purchase. We work with a couple banks in the region that will lend to you, a foreigner, non-Nicaraguan in this case, who want to own a property in Nicaragua up to 80%. So there are ways to make this affordable for many, many, many people. And we want to make it as affordable as possible for the most number of people. Sometimes we build what I call lifestyle homes. And somebody wants to live there, have a higher quality of life, it costs less, and that's great, right? And then I'm sure there are emotional reasons people want to move as well. But what we're doing in Isla is far more important. What we're doing in Isla is actually delivering a product that's not just wanted or desired, it's needed. And that truly makes this very different and very special. And it makes our commitment to doing it much higher. So we will work with you. If you have an interest, if you can't own for any reason, but you would want to rent, let us know that. Right? We're going to be pairing up people with investors so that we can actually make that happen for folks who want to make the investment, but for folks who want to live there. If you want to own a home and you've got some financial conditions, but you can borrow some money or whatever it is, or pay part crypto and borrow some or whatever it is, just reach out. If you need this product, we want to make it work for you, and we're going to do our darndest to make it happen. And I think I'm done. I am done. I see Karen has popped up on my screen, which is very cool. Hi, Karen. Thanks for being here. Joe, I'm going to turn it back over to you at this moment, and you can look and see if we have any questions. Yeah. And if so, maybe dish them out to whoever's best to answer them.
Certainly. And just a reminder for those that might have joined a few minutes late, if you do have questions, find the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen and feel free to input them there. I know historically it takes a while to get through all of them, so we probably won't on this session, but we will certainly get followed up with your question and get those answered. So yes, Karen is here. Hello, Karen. Thank you for joining. I have some questions that I took note of during your talk. The first one I just wanted to bring up was regarding the Isla community. We have changed the website so that way people can make a reservation for a specific home site right then and there. You don't need to fill out a form and send it to us. It's a very straightforward process. So that's easy enough. Mike, maybe this first question could be for you. How is Nicaragua in terms of a cashless society?
Cashless?
Cashless.
Cashless, thank you. Look, if you want to use a credit card, use a credit card. You want to pay with cash, pay with cash. It can be dollars, it can be Cordobas. Nicaragua is, I would say, one of the freest countries in the region. They never locked down. They never closed businesses. They never mask mandated. They really, handled the COVID issue, I would say, very, very well. I appreciated the freedom, as did many of the people who lived in Nicaragua during the COVID time. And we also saw a lot of folks who recognized that very, very clearly, that Nicaragua was a very free place, and they let people make their own decisions about what they were going to do. and we saw sales spike during that period precisely for that reason. They're crypto friendly. Obviously, crypto's crypto. You can just, you can transfer it between phones, right? So I'm not 100% sure I understand the cashless piece, but you can pay with credit card, you can pay with fiat, you can pay with crypto if somebody's willing to take it. And I don't know the number of merchants who take it. Actually, it's a good question. I'm guessing that more and more merchants will. You've got Bukele in El Salvador, who made Bitcoin legal tender a couple of years ago, and so a lot of countries in the region are looking at that, saying, well, you know what? We're not going to give up our currency or give up the dollar, but we can certainly have something that runs parallel to it. And Bitcoin is probably a pretty strong contender for most countries to look at for that. So anyway, I hope I answered the question. If I didn't, and there's a follow-up, maybe you can kick it around by email, Joe, and we'll
I see Karen wants to chime in, so.
Okay.
Karen, you are muted.
I don't like these things. Okay. I just wanted to chime in that I really liked the option to pay with US dollars or Nicaraguan Cordobas. For those who like to pay cash, you have and I'm not sure, do they take any of the European, the EU? I remember American and Cordobas.
I think predominantly that would be the case.
Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't always have to be credit card or crypto or cashless. They have beautiful money, and it seems to be still being used freely.
Yep.
There are a couple of people asking whether or not there will be a recording of this. Yes, the session has been recorded, so we will send out a follow-up email with the recording for people to watch if you are not able to join or for whatever reason want to watch anything else Mike said. Another question we had was, can people have animals on the property? Yes, I mean, you do see owners with animals. I've yet to see anything too exotic, so maybe there is a limitation there, but I think for a lot of standard animals, that is not a problem throughout.
Yeah, certainly what I would call it normal house pets, dogs, cats, birds, things like that. But we also have stables on the property, and we have one owner currently who's stabling her horse there. We keep other horses for guests to ride or visitors, whatever. But you can stable a horse. We do have property that's been fenced off. We lease it to a gentleman who runs some cattle, which is tremendous. But yes, we can certainly look at other options for animals in the appropriate areas of Grand Pacifica. And that's the key, right? It's where they're located as to whether it's appropriate or not.
Yes, certainly. I see some other questions about short-term rentals. As Mike talked about with Isla, we do have that throughout our other communities as well. We have an on-site rental management team in place. So if you're someone who's looking at it more on the investment side of things, we do have people that can manage that as a turnkey process, so you don't have to think about that. Okay, here's a good one, Mike. What are some things that you would recommend for someone who's going to be living there full time? What are some other things people can do while they're in the country? I know you mentioned those a little bit during the webinar, but what are some fun things people should do when they get down to Nicaragua and see it for themselves?
Okay, and let me maybe chop that answer into two, right? There's what I'm going to call the tourist fun things that you definitely should do if you're coming down for a week or 10 days. Do those things, right? Go to Granada, go to Leon. Look, you don't have to be crazy like me and volcano board and try to break the speed record. You can slide down slowly, or you can run down and jump, and but explore some volcanoes, do that kind of stuff. Go up to the cloud forest, go up to a beautiful, wonderful coffee resort called Selva Negra. We went up 2-3 weekends a month. Pretty regular towards the end of our stay in Nicaragua. It's a coffee plantation, a little over a mile in altitude. It's all organic. It's actually where we got our bag of stuff delivered every week from. But it's an organic coffee plantation. It's a resort. It's spectacular. Temperature at night, 60. Temperature in the daytime's 80 every day of the year. And it's just wonderful. So Selva Negra, I would put that on my list of fun things to do while you're visiting Nicaragua, let's call it that. If you're living in Nicaragua, that's kind of a different thing. Although you just heard me say that, we went up there a couple weekends a month, and we would go to Little Corn Island. maybe once or twice a year, which is a short plane flight over to the Caribbean and out to the island. And it's little corn islands like Gilligan's Island. There are no cars. It's a tiny little island, 8, 10 resorts and 15 restaurants, and it's just spectacular. So those kinds of things in country, in travel would be what I would say is important when you're living there, because it's just really cool, different things to do. But the most important thing we can do when we move overseas is actually figure out what we're going to do every day, most days, 16 hours a day, right? And I'm actually on a WhatsApp group, right, at Grand Pacifica with a group of writers, right? There's a group of, I don't know, 13 or 15 writers who have a WhatsApp group, and they share their information around. And so each of these people is writing a book or short stories in one case or whatever, right? And so there's something. Another guy came down and he's a woodworker, and he imported, under the pensionato rule, you can bring in household goods, and he brought in a bunch of his woodworking equipment. So he's busied himself doing woodworking kinds of projects. People learn to surf. People do surf, right? If you're a horse person, stable a horse and ride a horse and take care of a horse. If you like to garden, there's plenty of places to garden that we've set up. But if you say, well, look, I'd really like to, do something a little different. Well, we've got 2,500 acres. Let's talk about it and figure it out, right? And so being able to figure out what it is you're going to do big chunks of time during the day is important. And, and I think a lot of people, we have a woman, Lindsay, who does yoga and actually works with folks. We have a guy coming down to set up a gym there. So if you like to work out, we'll have a really nice gym. We have a small kind of gym on property. It's not great, but it's there. There's equipment. You can use it, right? If you like to play golf, I mean, there are a bunch of guys that play golf pretty much every day. One guy, Lauren, walks the course once or twice a day. So, there's definitely people to do things with, which is really important. And there are things to do, but knowing what it is you're kind of going to do a big chunk of the day every day before you come is really important in helping you to transition successfully into a new living environment. I mean, it's a new country. There are going to be cultural issues. Yes, culture shock happens. You will get culture shock. Trust me, everybody does, right? Some people get it bad, some people not so bad, but you'll get it, right? So the more careful and calculating you are with what you plan to do before you arrive in terms of that, that block of time. Look, and the other thing is, because it's, I mean, this is incredible, because everything's wired with fiber, right? The number of people who are actually working from Grand Pacifica for, businesses in the States, businesses in Europe, businesses in Australia, we have Aussies and Kiwis. I mean, we really have a lot of different nations represented at Grand Pacifica now. A lot of Nicaraguans. About 20% of our property owners are Nicaraguan. 1 in 5 Nicaraguan, right? So the Nicaraguans have adopted Grand Pacifica as their beach community as well. And so you've got this really neat mix of people. But at the end of the day, if you say, well, I'm going to work 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, well, you know what? If you can do it remotely, you can do it from Grand Pacifica because of the high-speed internet delivered via fiber. So that was why we put it in back in 2004. But obviously now with the EMF, issues and problems, it has sort of a secondary benefit, far beyond the high-speed bandwidth. So I hope that answered the question. Visiting fun. We have lots of fun things. If you come down on a trip, we'll touch a few of those. If you come for 10 days, we'll give you a list of things you should probably do. But if you're really thinking about living and moving, be conscious, be forwardly conscious about what you're going to do for these big blocks of time during the day, and it will help you move through the culture shock that you will experience moving to a new country and a new environment.
Great. Another couple of questions I'm seeing have to do with kids and schooling. Mike, maybe you could touch upon, since you had 2 daughters that you raised there, kind of what are some options for people, whether homeschooling and whatnot. But yeah, that seems to be a common thread.
Sure. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of kids on property yet. The number's growing, maybe, 3, 4 kids right there on property and just off property. So there's a small group of people. At one point, there was a small private school being run. We actually donated the space for it to run, but the woman left, and so the school kind of collapsed. I would say right now, if you're bringing small-ish children, whatever small is, but whatever preschool to high school, right? That kind of age kids, you probably want to plan on homeschooling. That's the real viable option at this moment. As more and more folks come, as more and more families come, I think there probably is a way forward for something a little more, maybe organized if folks want that. Although I would say that homeschooling has been very, very good for our daughters. We did German school for a number of years, Nordic school for a few more years, and then the last several years of their schooling was all homeschooled. And I have to say, we really appreciated the freedom that we had as a family, the freedom of curriculum. Those kinds of things were really, really important with the homeschooling. So that would be my specific thoughts on that at this moment. But it may change, as more and more families arrive.
Sure. And Karen, I'm trying to find some questions related to you, so it's not just a Mike talk. But Mike, real fast, another common thread seems to be about medical care. Could you just touch upon the various options and then, and the various types of hospitals within Nicaragua?
Sure. So, medical care out by Grand Pacifica is sparse. The nearest clinic that's operated on a 24-hour basis is about 15 to 20 minutes away. I mean, if you were really hurt, they can get there in 15 minutes. If you're just driving normal, it's about 20 minutes away. We actually built a health clinic adjacent to Grand Pacifica. The challenge is getting it open and staffed, which we're still dealing with some of that. But over the next, say, 3 to 5 years, I fully expect that clinic to be open and staffed, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We just received the license, the permit from the health ministry last year. So that's in process. We're moving in that direction. But today, if you break your arm or something happens, it's 15, 20 minutes away to the nearest clinic. If you need real medical care, the hospital in Managua is phenomenal. It's called the Vivian Pellis. It's world class, and I know that's hard for people to imagine, but just figure the population of Nicaragua is 6 million people. 5% of those people are pretty well off, and they want high quality medical care. So that's 300,000 people who want high quality medical care, and they get it. We did all of our stuff there as a family. I even had a couple heart stents put in maybe 8 or so years ago there. So full faith, full confidence, and so unbelievably inexpensive. I mean, again, silly inexpensive to have anything done there. I do recommend that folks get what we call an expat insurance policy. It's a policy only for expats. Ours had a pretty high deductible, so the premiums were very low, but it included things like air evacuation service. So you get hit by a bus and they need to send you to Florida or Texas or something, no problem. The air ambulance flies down, picks you up, and takes you. So I'm a big fan of expat insurance. There are some local insurance programs. Even the hospitals themselves run them, which are great as well. And I think a lot of that information is available, in some of our frequently asked question sheets and some of the stuff we produce in terms of reports, the Nicaragua handbook, for example. So anyway, Joe can certainly get you a lot more details on that.
Certainly. We have a lot of great resources, and I see a lot of questions specific to various types of properties, price points, square footage, this and that. But we probably won't be able to get to those right during this webinar, but we will certainly send you some detailed information so that you can look that over. Karen, I'm seeing a lot of interest regarding the EMF community. One question has to do with who we are using for our building biologists. Could you just touch upon that and just maybe your experience? I know you've been to Grand Pacifica, but if you could just shed some light on that, that'd be great.
That's a smart and important question. There are some really great questions. The gal that we're using that I think we all love is Kathy Cook, Cooke, and she is in Idaho. If let's see, is there a contact for you, Joe, from this webinar?
If people email webinar@ecidevelopment.com, that will get picked up, or my personal email is joe.nagel, joe.nagel @ecidevelopment.com. But that's a pretty easy way to get in touch.
Okay, if anybody wants more information about Kathy, email Joe, and then we can give you the link to her website to be in contact with her
and provide her report.
And provide her report.
I actually think we can provide the report today. We just don't have it up on the website yet, but yeah, absolutely.
So great question again. Thank you.
Great. Mike, this probably one goes back to you. It's a lot of questions about banking. I know we can't get into too much specifics. But could you just talk about from the financing side a little bit more? I don't know, just shed some light on that because it seems to be a lot of questions, logistically,
Sure.
what banks, all those kind of things.
Yeah. And Joe's right. A lot of those things will depend upon the property and your timelines, the amount of down payment. So there are a lot of variables in terms of things like interest rate, term, amortization, and it's too general to be able to give anything specific here without knowing your specific circumstances. But basically, we work with a couple different banks. One out of Belize is our primary lender for properties like this, and so you put up your down payment, up to say up to 50%. The bank has a loan to value of 50%. So let's say that you put up half, the bank puts up half. That's a pretty straightforward transaction. If you want to put down, say, 20%, the bank still only puts up half the money. Then we, the developer, carry the other 30%. So you end up with one mortgage. It's all handled by the bank. It's seamless to you, the consumer, right? So you make one mortgage payment to the bank every month for whatever that combined amount is, and then the bank on the back end kind of splits it out between themselves and us. But again, our goal in being able to work with these guys and what we want to do by taking back a second position up to another 30% is to make ownership of a home at Grand Pacifica, Isla, specifically, and I think in the question case, possible for as many people as possible. Again, this is important. I mean, this is really important, and we're going to work with you in whatever way possible to help make that happen. So if you have a specific home, if you have a timeline, if you have an amount of deposit, right, then someone like Joe, usually Joe, it wouldn't have to be him, but he can help kind of frame up the front end of it. And if you like what you hear and you want to move forward, he will make the introduction to the folks at the bank, and then they'll pick up and actually work with you on the lending process, right? But that's a pretty specific question, and the specific answers depend upon very specific conditions. So get with Joe, please. Get with Joe. He'll work with you, work through the details, and be able to give you a precise answer to your circumstances.
Exactly. And I see we are approaching the top of the hour, and I have a few more questions I want to get through, so maybe we can do a little bit quicker answers here. But one person's asking about vaccination requirements to enter the country. Those do not exist. Mike, can touch a little bit more on this, but Nicaragua did have, they never required anything, but the airlines were very insistent that you have the vaccination.
Or a test.
Exactly.
That was the option. You either had to test or be vaccinated, and that was an airline mandate, not a country mandate. Exactly. So, yeah. Exactly. So
Nicaragua was very free in that regards. And I see another question about driving from the U.S. to Nicaragua. I actually just had a good gentleman of ours that's on the property that did that. I didn't really think people would want to do that, but he did it, and
with his dog.
With his dog. And if that's something that you'd be interested in talking with him about, send us an email. We can certainly get you guys connected, because I'm sure there's some pretty valuable wisdom there that he could bestow.
Yes, for sure. By the way, for sure. He and I talked about it, and it's sort of the old adage, if I had to do it over again, here's what I would do different. He has a few of those things that he would definitely share.
Another quick question I see is about air conditioning. We do have our solar panel homes, but those have batteries which do allow for air conditioning. We understand with the climate, it can get quite warm in some months, and we know everyone likes air conditioning, or at least has the ability to have air conditioning. So whether you use it or not, it's up to you. But
hey Joe, hey, I'm going to interrupt just for a second. While we're talking about air conditioning, one of the questions we get a lot of times is about the VOCs, the off-gassing, the chemical sensitivities. The beautiful thing about the building materials we use, concrete, real wood, tile, these materials are very, very low in any kind of off-gassing. Can't say they're none, because concrete does have a little bit of off-gassing, but there's no fly ash use in Nicaragua in their cement, so that's a big factor. And these materials tend to be very, very mold resistant, right? I mean, they don't hold mold very well. So the homes themselves are well thought out for both ventilation, air conditioning because of the climate, and humidification, dehumidification, but then also in material selections for the homes. The one place where I think our folks, Grant and Sasha, are really spending some quality time thinking about it. Joe, you too, is on the furniture packages. You know, how do we source furniture that's, you know, that has very, very, you know, low off-gassing materials? Well, you know, the hardwoods they use to build beautiful, lovely furniture, solid hardwood stuff, but any kind of padding, those kinds of things make a difference. So, but you mentioned air conditioning. I just wanted to mention that the concepts of building biology go far beyond the EMF into these other elements as well, and they're being considered in the home design and in the furniture packages.
Well, great. Well, I see we're at the top of the hour here, and I want to be respectful of people's time. So Mike, Karen, any other last words that you'd like to leave people with?
Yep, I'm gonna let Karen have the last word. I'm really glad you joined us today, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you guys. So much information. I see the person who asked about the air conditioning asked about the weather, and that's probably my favorite topic regarding Nicaragua because I'm really a tropical person. I loved it. And the entire time I was down there, I personally never turned on the air conditioning because there was a ceiling fan. And I believe we can do that in any community, in any unit. And that was plenty of ventilation and air for me. And then the air is fresh. So it definitely is hot. You need to like the tropics, which I do. And then to get too hot, you run into the amazing ocean.
Very good.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, we will be sending out a recording and also answering any questions we could not get to in this session. But thank you again for calling in from wherever you are, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Good. Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.